Once upon a time, way back in 2004, a 17-year-old girl felt the urge to draw a portrait after seeing a music video on TV. That is where it all began. She had, however, always been the classical art kid, with sidewalk chalk, colouring books, Bob Ross on TV, scribbling anime characters in school, and always some pencils and paintbrushes to toy around with. The years would pass and she'd scribble on. Here a portrait, there a portrait, some landscapes, honing her skills without knowing she did so. Not even knowing what the term artist was all about. More years passed and she'd have to eventually give up her career in retail due to health reasons. The rest of 2011 went by and after having escaped the corporate world, the artist got louder and louder each day. In 2012, I started a portrait series, and from there on, I did not put my tools down anymore, but invested my newly won time into honing my skills even more. And the rest is history. In 2012 also, my first website was born, thanks to my best friend who ran a web design company back then, and where I also learned a lot. It lived until early 2023. Also to that time, I started to think about wanting a trademark, a company name to identify with. Art Refugium was born. It was a good name, I thought, because art was, and still is, kind of a hideaway for me. A place to go to when the world outside is unsafe and chaotic. Also in early 2012, I created my first social media presence with my art, my Facebook page. Later on, a YouTube channel and an Instagram profile should follow. I also tested out many other platforms over the years, but eventually left them again, mostly because on most of them nothing was going on, or they were a dorado for art thieves. More years passed by and my skills grew. By now I was good with graphite, but I also loved to paint with acrylics. Later on I would also get familiar with color pencils and watercolours. My subjects would still be the same. People, fantasy landscapes, eventually even some animals and objects. I did and do like to tell stories with my artworks, especially with my paintings. I want to draw the viewers in, and I hope I can make them feel what I feel when I see the image in my head. Every piece I do has some kind of story behind it. Some years later, more and more requests for artwork came in, and every now and then someone asked for a just finished original. Also in 2018, I finally could start full speed with my YouTube channel thanks to a dear friend who had gifted me computer parts that had the right amount of processor performance to enable me to cut and render videos. I bought a case, puzzled the parts into it, and off I went. Things went on as usual. Here a request, there an original, sometimes silence for months. And then 2020 came and everything went down the gully. If that time was good for anything here, then for honing my skills even more. While on lockdown, I took the opportunity to sit down for an hour or two each day to work on some freehand drawings, because there was nothing else left to do than to consume and produce art. 2021 came, and with my novel being finished to that time and only missing its cover, the thought of registering business started to appear in my mind. After some research about the how-to and with the helping hand of my best friend, I made it in the end and held that piece of paper in my hands that said, "Hey, you're a business owner now since March 2022. And initially I wanted to rename it already back then, but I'm sure you know that. You plan something and then life starts throwing rocks in your way. I got distracted, got another few commissions, and most of early 2023 was a blur of internal problems, technical problems, and yeah. And then I decided to ask if there was anyone who could teach me some tax knowledge, because I still had 1,000 question marks over my head and I wanted to make sure I did nothing illegal. In November, this also came to an end. So it's time to rename this whole thing. Art Refugium has served me well for 11 years, but it's time to move on. So from a hideaway, I am moving to a more serious name now that, in my eyes, represents better what I'm doing these days. Now, drum roll. Art Refugium becomes Marlies Avenius Fine Art, with hopefully many more years to come and so many things that I want to do and release for you. And most of all, with a ton of creating, because my mind is filled to the brim with images. Thank you to all of you who have joined me on my journey so far, and to all of you who do so newly after this video.